Okay, Hare Krishna. So, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 17, and we're going to be reading text 26 and 27 today. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I'll share my screen actually. Okay, so starting with text 26. Yam cha bhumir bhagavata nyasito ruparasati Srimad vistatpada nyasai sarvata krita kautuka. Word for word, yam, this, cha, and, bhumi, surface of the earth, bhagavata, by the personality of Godhead, nyasita, being performed personally as well as by others, uru, great, bara, burden, sati, being so done, Srimadbi, by the all auspicious, tat, that, padanyasai, footprints, sarvata, all around, krita, done, kautuka, good fortune. Translation: the burden of the earth was certainly diminished by the personality of Godhead, and by others as well. When he was present as an incarnation, all good was performed because of his auspicious footprints. There's no commentary for this verse, so I'll move on to the next verse for now. And afterwards, I do have just a couple comments on this verse as well. So text 27. Shochatya shrukala sadvi durbhage vojita sati abramanya nripa vyaja shudra bhokshanti mam iti. Translation: now she, the chaste one, being unfortunately forsaken by the personality of Godhead, laments her future with tears in her eyes, for now she is being ruled and enjoyed by lower class men who pose as rulers. Purport. The Kshatriya, or the man who is qualified to protect the sufferers, is meant to rule the state. Untrained lower class men, or men without ambition to protect the sufferers, cannot be placed on the seat of an administrator. Unfortunately, in the age of Kali, the lower class men without training occupy the post of a ruler by strength of popular votes. And instead of protecting the sufferers, such men create a situation quite intolerable for everyone. Such rulers illegally gratify themselves at the cost of all comforts of the citizens, and thus the chaste Mother Earth cries to see the pitiable condition of her sons, both men and animals. That is the future of the world in the age of Kali, when irreligiosity prevails most prominently. And in the absence of a suitable king to curb irreligious tendencies, educating the people systematically in the teaching of Srimad Bhagavatam will clear up the hazy atmosphere of corruption, bribery, blackmail, etc. Om Jnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, just to restate the context of where we are in the Bhagavatam, Parikshit Maharaj has stumbled on Dharma the bull and Bhumi the cow, and they're being beaten by the personification of the age of Kali. And Dharma hasn't directly stated who has caused this harm to him, but Parikshit Maharaj is now observing, and he sees that Dharma the bull is only standing on one leg, and even with that leg, it's not very strongly held at this point, and that leg represents truthfulness. So now he's seeing this, and he's commenting. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur actually has a very brief comment in this on this text 26. And so again, the translation, the burden of the earth was certainly diminished by the personality of Godhead and by others as well. When he was present as an incarnation, all good was performed because of his auspicious footprints. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he explains this term, Nyasitoru Bara, this term here. And he says that this means she who had her heavy burden created by others, which are demons, and her own weight removed by the Lord. So this is explaining how he's explaining how the earth, not of her own accord, obviously, but due to others, demonic entities, they brought so much burden on her. And while the Lord was present, he removed that burden from the earth. And Parikshit Maharaj, he also had explained similarly earlier on in this chapter in text number 6. He explained earlier, he said, "You rogue, do you dare beat an innocent cow because Lord Krishna and Arjuna, the carrier of the Gandiva bow, are out of sight? Since you are beating the innocent in a secluded place, you are considered a culprit and therefore deserve to be killed." So we can see that Parikshit Maharaj was also expressing this same idea. And basically the idea was that he's noticing how the age of Kali feels very confident to perform these atrocious acts, so long as the Lord isn't in sight. And I know there's no commentary on this verse, but it just made me think about this same idea of how, even for ourselves, we may perform so many atrocious acts thinking that the Lord is not present. So what difference does it make whether I perform this activity or not? And of course, it's not actually that the Lord wasn't present. Even when the Lord, I guess you could say, physically left the material world, that does not mean that he's no longer present. And so for the personification of Kali to think that he can perform such activities simply because he's not able to see Krishna anymore is naive. And I would also extend that same message to myself, at least, that for me to think that I can perform activities without Krishna's awareness is naive. Of course, we know that Krishna is present as Paramatma within every living entity, and Krishna is present everywhere. Krishna is everything. So for us to think that we can perform some type of activity that is irreligious and not be held responsible for those activities is naive. And it just shows our lack of awareness of the Lord's presence everywhere. So just one thought that came to mind in regards to this text 26. And then in text 27, where I'll read the translation one more time. So he's saying, now she, the chaste one, this is referring to Bhumi, the cow, being unfortunately forsaken by the personality of Godhead, laments her future with tears in her eyes, for now she's being ruled and enjoyed by lower class men who pose as rulers. So Prabhupada is explaining in the purport here how unqualified people become the rulers in the age of Kali. And of course, I haven't been present for the other classes, but I know that throughout this section, Prabhupada comments on the nature of the killing of cows and how irreligiosity predominates society so long as qualified rulers are not at the head. So similarly, we're again seeing here how a very vivid example of how an unqualified person has become a ruler. And we're seeing Kali, the personification of Kali, abusing his power and So Prabhupada explains in the purport that because the rulers don't promote religiosity, the only way people can be saved in the age of Kali is to be educated on an individual basis on the teachings and values of Srimad Bhagavatam. So he says here at the end that in the absence of a suitable king to curb irreligious tendencies, educating the people systematically in the teaching of Srimad Bhagavatam will clear up the hazy atmosphere of corruption, bribery, blackmail, etc. And the way that I personally took this statement is that I don't necessarily take it to mean that I don't necessarily believe that the whole world will become pure. We are in the material world, and the material world will always exhibit, you know, all of the byproducts of the modes of nature, right? So it's not to be expected that the material world will become the spiritual world. But what we can confidently say is that every additional person that becomes educated in the core principles and teachings of the Srimad Bhagavatam, they can learn how to navigate the world without being affected by these tendencies such as corruption, bribery, blackmail, etc. And they can kind of, like that example of the lotus that floats on top of the murky water, right? So the lotus is remains pure despite being present on top of the dirty water. And so similarly, one who dives deeper and deeper into the scriptures, Srimad Bhagavatam primarily, they can kind of rise above the effects of the material world, and they can walk about the world unaffected by these symptoms of the age of Kali that will inevitably be present everywhere that we go. So these are just a couple points that I wanted to highlight from these verses. I don't have any other comments on these. If anyone has any comments or questions they would like to add, I would appreciate that definitely on either one of these verses. Thank you. Okay. Seems like may not be any comment. That's fine. So I think we can stop there for today, and tomorrow we'll pick up with text 28. Thank you all. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.